There is a high-level meeting consisting of representatives of both Iran and the United States. This is going to be the first round of new talks that will take place in Amman. And the Trump administration will be represented by U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, while Iran will be represented by their foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi. So the question is, what is going to take place at this meeting? What are the stakes? What are the potential consequences if a deal is not struck in the end? And how might the U.S. handle a potentially emboldened Iran if, in fact, no deal is made? So here now to unpack some of these critical questions and the potential scenarios is retired Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert. After a very distinguished military career, General Teichert retired as the Assistant Deputy Undersecretary of the U.S. Air Force for International Affairs. General Teichert, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to have you.
Jody, thanks for having me on again.
Well, it is our privilege indeed. And listen, I can't personally fully fathom the potential stakes of the representatives from both the U.S. and Iran as they meet tomorrow. Kind of set the stage for us, if you will.
Jody, the president has made very clear that the United States will not tolerate a nuclear-armed Iran, and that all options are on the table depending on how things play out tomorrow and in the ensuing dialogue with Iran. And I think that based on that statement and his earnestness in making that statement, that if Iran either continues to pursue nuclear weapons or they delay in the negotiations or negotiate in bad faith, then both very strong consequences militarily and economically are on the table for the Trump administration in order to fulfill that promise that Iran will not get a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, and therein lies the enormity of the meetings and the enormous stakes that are involved in all of this. That's why I say that it's very difficult for me to fully grasp just how important this is. And then you add to it this whole nother layer I was seeing where there's quite a significant difference between the two sides as it relates to how this meeting is even going to be conducted. For example, on the Trump side, they're saying this is going to be a direct person-to-person meeting, while Iran is saying they are not going to meet person-to-person with Americans. There will be a go-between. They will meet in two separate rooms, and an Iran diplomat will send messages back and forth. Describe that for us. How's this really going to unfold, in your opinion?
Jody, first of all, President Trump made very clear that this is just the first of a series of meetings. So I don't think your listeners or viewers should expect that there'll be a deal by the end of the weekend. But I do think that the two sides will start in different rooms using a mediator from Amman to broker the start of these negotiations or the dialogue. And then eventually, I think by the end of the weekend, they will meet face to face. But I think it's important to realize that right now, the Ayatollah has a choice to make, because ultimately a dictatorial regime like Iran cares about one primary thing, and that's regime survival. And the Ayatollah has to weigh the decision whether pursuing nuclear weapons allows him to maintain control of Iran in the best possible way, or based on the threats from the United States that I think are very real from the Trump administration, whether it is better for him and the regime to negotiate away from nuclear weapons in order to maintain the stability of the regime. And all of that starts with negotiations tomorrow, but unlikely will end based on what happens tomorrow in Amman, and it will take several productive meetings for both sides to make the decision what is in their best interest, and ultimately for Iran in the best interest of the regime.
Yeah, good point. I think that's really insightful information, and I totally agree. This is the administration has been very public about this, that this is just the first meeting, and as you indicate, we all need to keep that in mind, that this is just the first of many. So let's go to the end. After ever how many meetings there will be, what are the potential consequences if a deal is not struck when we come to the end of this thing?
If, again, Jody, it becomes clear that Iran is delaying, not negotiating in good faith, or clearly is pursuing nuclear capability, then there's going to be a combination of very strong responses from the United States and Israel. Part of that is economic, which means additional sanctions, but also there are sanctions that automatically take effect in October that are snapback sanctions that would be extremely ruinous to the Iranian regime if they actually unfold without negotiating, eliminating those sanctions. But right now, the United States is poised militarily, with 2 carrier battle groups in the region and a slew of B-2 bombers and Diego Garcia in the general vicinity, that if we believe that the Iranians are still pursuing nuclear weapons, then both those very extreme economic maximum pressure sanctions will take place, and likely we will strike the Iranian nuclear capability in conjunction with our friends in Israel.
Okay, so 2 primary weapons, if you will. There's the military side of things, obviously, but then there's the economic side, and there's the diplomatic side. We can throw that in. That's obviously underway now. How does all of this impact the region? What do you anticipate to happen there?
It's interesting as you look at what happened in the last year and a half in Iran's lack of capability in striking Israel. And I think that's going to be on their minds as they think about the fact that Israel and the United States can strike Iran any target at any time at will. And Iran has demonstrated that they cannot do the same against Israel. And now, additionally to that, that their proxy network has been degraded substantially. And so for the region, Iran has far fewer levers to pull that are destabilizing than they did just a year and a half ago. And that's going to play into their minds about whether this negotiation tactic means that it is in their best interest to pursue nuclear weapons, realizing that a strike is likely to come if they do, or trading away those nuclear weapons in order to get some relief against those strikes or against those sanctions is in their best interest. And I think what has happened in the last year and a half demonstrates their lack of capability within the region, and that will make them more likely to negotiate away those nuclear weapons than they would have been just a year and a half ago.
Wow, extremely insightful information. General John Teichert, thank you so much for joining us. And boy, we're going to be keeping a pulse on this. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch again.
Thank you, Jody.